Hey everyone, it's After Hours Games with another devlog for Alien Frontier. In the weeks since the demo's full release, I've collected a huge amount of feedback from players. In the feedback form, I asked what do players want to see more of, and by a good margin, most players wanted more characters. When you boot up the demo, you're greeted with a character selection screen that only features one playable class, the standard issue. In the game, classes give players different playstyle opportunities and stats, and the standard issue is the most well-balanced class to introduce new players to the game. However, the request for more character classes reveals a few things. Firstly, players want to see what other options they have when playing the game, which makes sense. But there's more to it. You see, I've received a lot of comments about the look of the player character, particularly how a lot of players aren't fond of his Freddie Mercury-esque aesthetics. And while I think it really fits the old Victorian explorer meets retro future look, I understand why players aren't overly fond of it. So I decided that with my first big post-demo task, I would create the next playable character in the game. So why don't we jump into it? First up was the overall concept. My intent is to provide an array of classes that have their own strengths and weaknesses, but are not inherently stronger or weaker than each other. It's all about horizontal progression, where different classes encourage unique playstyles, not necessarily better ones. So with this second class, I wanted to provide an option that was more tailored to better survivability with an emphasis on defensive options. The game is pretty challenging, so it seemed like a natural solution to introduce a character that helps players survive for longer. First up is the visuals. I decided to stick with a male character just to reduce the animation work for now, but don't worry, there will be female characters, and there will be more racially diverse characters in the future as well. I'm even hoping to add an android type character or two, but that's a stretch goal for now. I went with a more traditional, gruff-looking character, but pitted him out with a sturdier-looking outfit that conveys the feeling of being a soldier. Since I can't quite let go of facial hair, I also gave the dude a great big bushy beard. But I made sure his overall aesthetic is distinct from the first class. As far as gameplay goes, the abilities reflect its theme of survivability. Its primary skill is pretty cool, a defensive bubble that blocks all damage for a short period of time. But I find pure defense builds are kind of boring in most games, so the twist here is that any incoming damage is actually reflected back as a player shot, and that includes any player shot mods or bonuses. So if you have a perk that spawns 3 shots instead of 1 when you pull the trigger, anytime you get hit, it bounces back a triple shot projectile. When I was setting this up, however, I ran into a bunch of issues. You see, it worked a little too well where the bubble would take damage and spawn a player shot, but then that player shot would damage the bubble, spawning more shots, which spawned even more. This caused a chain reaction that absolutely murdered my frame rate. But once I got going, it was pretty sick. On top of that, the class has a new secondary weapon, which is a low rate of fire, extremely high damage sniper rifle. It's great for taking out enemies at a distance and really encourages the character play style of being a little more defensive and cautious and not rushing headlong into things. There are also quite a few other balance changes, such as providing this class an extra bar of health by default, but at the cost of a lower rate of fire and lower heat capacity. So overall, I'm quite pleased with how the class turned out. It has its own distinct identity, but it's not any better or not any worse than the default class. It simply provides a new way to play the game, and to me, that is really important in a roguelike. If you're curious to see how this plays, well, I got good news for you. Since I've gotten so much support lately, I've decided to add the class into the demo. So all you need to do is play a single run in the game, win or lose, and then you'll unlock the new class, the Armor Clad. So check it out. Thanks so much for watching, and if you'd like to support me, please consider wishlisting on Steam. It really helps out. Thanks everyone.